and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to weather wagons, mainly private owner wagons with powders in 00 scale. I've already weathered this private owner wagon today with these Tamiya weathering powders. They are used for military models usually, but they are great for model trains as well. So I'll be using them today. Weathering of powders, I really like using Tamiya Weathering Master. And they're a little expensive, but they're really good quality. I use this one quite a lot. It's got snow, soot and rust, and as you can see when we open it up, I've used it a bit, especially the soot. The snow would be useful for if you're doing diesels. I did a quite heavily weathered for my first time an old mainline class 56 in rail freight red strap livery, and I put a bit of snow on as like the lime coming out of the grills, but it was very heavily weathered, and but for my first go it was alright, and I use this tool quite a lot. It's like, it comes in the pack, like when you open it up new, it's all filled in and nice, and it comes like that. I use this end quite a lot for my weathering. It's really good for putting soot on like exhaust areas of diesels. I haven't really tried weathering steam engines much because I'm just sort of getting into weathering, but these ends are quite easy to break. As I've already broken this one, it's quite, it's not very nice. Probably just pushing too hard like that on the powders itself. So I usually use my finger because I find that the brush, this end I don't use it often, but brushes, they're not, I probably should shop around a bit more for stiffer brushes, but I find that they don't pick up the powder well enough. So I just use my fingers and get them in there and sort of rub it onto the wagon. And when you matte varnish it, you don't really notice any fingerprints. I also used these cars weathering powders for some of my other wagons, like the cement one here, although I used the Tamiya actually. I mixed a bit of the soot and snow together to get that grey. But I used those like browns for the J Skinner wagon. They're sort of a brown in real life. So yes, let's get on to weathering. So what I do is I just get my finger and just brush it against the soot there, and as you can see my fingers now black, and I just get the wagon and go rub a bit on like that, and it ends up dulling it down quite a lot there on the white writing. As I said, eventually I'll get into airbrushing, but just for simple little weathering projects like this, it's good to use powders because, especially with N gauge or even Z gauge if you're really desperate, it's good to use powders because the models are quite small, and you don't need to use an airbrush unless you can use an airbrush in N scale, especially for your coaching stock in your diesels and your steam engines. But for wagons that they're this size, apart from the underframe, what's the point of using an airbrush? You're just going to make it too dirty. So that's almost finished. I'm just got to dull it down a little bit more. So put a bit more powder on. And again with weathering, you don't want to be too heavy on it like I was with my first weathering project, my 56. It's just ends up looking wrong and terrible and doesn't look very nice at all. So that's that side basically done. It just dulls it down quite nicely. As I've done before, just open the Tamiya weathering powders up, get the soot off, and there, you don't really notice it much, but it gives that little bit of an extra effect. And I'm back with the finished product, so it ends up like that, and that, with a bit of matte varnish, either sprayed out of a can or an airbrush, doesn't really matter. That will finish the product off. All matte varnish does is stops the powder rubbing off, and look, it's probably not perfect because the gaps of white there near the like the support rod, that would maybe be like easier to get into with a brush, but as I said, I find that brushes don't tend to pick up powder that great. And I watched a few short YouTube videos on brush weathering, and they show a great example of brush weathering, and I sincerely suggest that you watch them, but I found that the camera didn't tend to pick up that, like, it dulled the wagon down, but it didn't tend to pick up the powders that well. So I'm not anything against brush powder weathering, but I just find that the powders go on the wagon or whatever you are doing better this way. So yeah, thanks for watching and happy modelling.